Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I am a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Pokémon Blue. Really, it's kind of like red, blue, and yellow in general, but, we'll just try to focus on blue, since yellow is slightly different, and red also is even more slightly different. Okay, so, basically, if you don't know what Pokemon is, it's like a simple RPG for the Game Boy. At least Pokemon Blue is on the Game Boy, first gen. Okay. And they've always really been on the handhelds, at least for the main series. And the thing is, it's, getting a party of members, leveling them up, giving them cool moves, and, the overall goal is to fight through these gyms to get badges, proving how strong you are, in order to get to the Pokémon League, which is some of the best Pokemon trainers in the world. And once you beat all of them, you become a Pokemon champion, and that is really the goal of the game. Now, what this means is that your party consists of Pokemon, which are, and to describe this in a way that you might understand if you don't know anything about Pokemon, is that they're basically like they're like animals with superpowers. That's how I would put it. Some of them are more like objects and plants and all kinds of stuff, but generally a lot of them are based off of animals, and they can use elements like fire and water and electricity. It's not really an element, but you get the idea. And so they have these elemental types, I guess is what they're called. So basically, when the game starts off, you are given one of these Pokemon. You can pick from 3, unless you're in the yellow version, but we're talking about blue. You can pick from 3 Pokemon, and you pick that starter, and then you have a rival that picks one, and then you fight. And basically that rival is a recurring character you'll be fighting throughout the game. Now, what this means is that you are a person that trains animals, superpowered animals called Pokemon. And along the way, you can get these devices called Pokeballs. There are many different versions of them. Some work better than others. And you use them to catch other Pokemon. You do this by fighting them, getting them weak, and then throwing a Pokeball at them and catching them. And then you now have that, and you can train it. Your party can consist of a total of 6 members. So at any given time, you can have 6 Pokemon on you, and you want to train them and level them up. And as they level up, they get new moves. Of different varying types and effects, and you'll just have to learn what they do because they don't really tell you beforehand. It's a learning experience. It's fun. It's cool. Just roll with it. Also, Pokemon often will often evolve upon leveling up. After hitting a certain level, which is a predetermined level depending on the Pokemon, your Pokemon will level up. There are also other ways to do it, but this is the main way it happens. Once you level up to a certain level, you will evolve into a stronger Pokemon. Basically that's how it goes. Some evolve once, some evolve twice, some do not evolve at all. And there's a lot of ins and outs there, but to give you the basics, that's really all you need to know. And really, what makes Pokemon so interesting is that training all of these Pokemon, it's just, all of your opponents can also be your party members. That's how it works. Because the world is filled with Pokemon, and everyone uses the Pokemon that are in the world. And you can have more Pokemon to switch out if you want to change your party members. If you catch extra ones, they go to this PC, which is in the Pokemon Center, which is where you also go to heal your Pokemon, because no one actually dies, they just faint. And you won't actually lose any progress as far as, you don't have to save, and then you get a game over if they all lose all of their hit points. If they all lose all of their hit points, then you'll just be transported back to the last Pokemon Center you were, and they'll be back at full health. You probably lose all the progress where you were exploring, but you can probably get back there as well. Okay, so, and the thing that's really interesting and cool about that is that there are 150 in the original games. And so that means that there are, and there's a few exclusions depending on the games, but generally at any given time there's at least about 100 different Pokemon available to you in your version of the game. Which means that those 100 Pokemon, any of the Pokemon that you fight potentially could also be a Pokemon that you yourself can capture and train at some point if you can find one. You can't catch other trainers' Pokemon because, well, that's just wrong. It's theirs. But you can catch wild ones, which you find in the grass in some caves and certain other areas. And you'll excuse how awkward this is. It is kind of strange to explain Pokemon to someone where it's best for you to just play it and figure it out. It's hard to believe there are people who don't know what Pokemon is, but, you know, I can understand where not everyone plays Pokemon. So that's about as best I can do to explain in general of what it's like. It's very simple. There's not a lot of stat management or equipment to deal with like in RPGs. You have a lot of options. There are a lot of different party members you can have, and you can have different teams, which means that this really increases replayability if you want to train this Pokemon through, or if you want to play a game and train other Pokemon while going through, and this and that. There's a lot of different options and a lot of different teams and combinations, and there's a lot of replayability. And along the way, there's a lot of cool little things to add into there as well, but mainly it's about adventuring from town to town, training your Pokemon, catching Pokemon that you want, training them to be really strong enough to beat the gym leaders, to get the badges, getting all the badges in order to do the Pokémon League, facing the Pokémon League, and ultimately beating them and becoming the Pokemon champion. And it's rather simple in that regard. The games are decent length, they're very good for Game Boy games, and it's a very common misconception that these are Game Boy Color games because of the colored cartridges. They are not. They came out late in the Game Boy's life cycle, rather late, because they came out around the same time that the Game Boy Color came out. So you could, you know, most people probably got these with, at least in like, you know, North America at least, you could get, you know, Pokemon came out around about the same time as the Game Boy Color. In fact, this is the first game, I don't know if it was blue or if it was yellow, but one of these first generation Pokemon games are what I got with my Game Boy Color, and it was awesome. So it was obvious, you know, it's clearly, you know, you get that around the same time and the colored cartridge, it makes you really think, gee, it must be a Game Boy Color game. Not so. Alright. I think that's kind of I wanted to say that was the genius thing about it, though, was that with the Pokemon, that all these different Pokemon that could be, you know, your opponents are also the same ones you can use. So you can learn what moves they might have, what types they might be. Certain types are good against other types and weak against other types. You know, so like electricity is super effective against water because water conducts electricity. Fire is super effective against grass because, well, it would make grass start on fire. There are some simple things like that, and there are a few strange ones in there as well, but it's still, most of it is very simple, and other stuff is like you'll learn along the way. There's a lot of kind of simple and easy to understand concepts already built in, and it makes it so the game isn't super cryptic immediately when you start off. Don't get me wrong, I played it for years, and even I still got a lot of the things that I knew about it wrong. Especially now with the internet, you can look things up if you want to get more specifics on them, but you don't need to. And that's the thing that I think it's great, is that you can boil the game down to, you know, all your attacks doing a certain number of damage, like certain stats, and all the stats are numbers, the attack is, and the ratios, and the way they're calculated onto other Pokemon, and it's all about math, and you can boil it down to a lot of that, but it's not about that. It's more about caring about your Pokemon. It's about, you know, you play it, and of course, yeah, there's like not a lot of difference between this and that Pokemon. There are some differences between two Pokemon of the, you know, exact same Pokemon of the exact same level, depending on if it was wild and it was trained and, you know, the level it was trained from, things like that. But the thing is, what it really comes down to is how much you put into the games and how much you care about the Pokemon. So it's like, you could have a Pokemon that isn't even technically that great of a Pokemon in the grand scheme of things, as maybe some kind of professional tournament player might tell you, or competitive player. I wouldn't recommend being one of those people, but they do exist. But even so, if that Pokemon, you know, starts getting a lot of good hits in there, and like gets a lot of critical hits, or is just doing a really good job and getting really lucky with the battles and such, you kind of grow attached and you start to feel awesome. And it's one of these things where, like, it can get you into a spot where you're like, oh no, I need to get a critical hit in order to, like, win this battle, because this is my last Pokemon, and if he takes one more hit, he's gonna die. and you just like, you gotta do it, you gotta kill it, and your Pokemon does the attack, and it gets a critical hit, and it kills the enemy Pokemon. Holy shit! You feel awesome. It feels like you overcame something, and you feel like the both of you did it. It doesn't even feel like it was just a luck of the game. It feels like something that you two accomplished, and you're proud of your Pokemon for doing that, and it's like, it's cool. It's a feeling, and I guess if you don't buy into that, and you can't suspend your belief enough to do that, yeah, you might think it's a little stupid, and you might not be a big fan, but it's kind of a thing where you get out of it what you put into it, and that's something I think that has a lot of value in mini games, where you get out of them what you put into them for a lot of games. So, keep that in mind. And I can't really say much else here, I guess. There's not a whole lot I need to go into, I don't think. I mean, I think it's designed very well. It's very simple. It's very entertaining. It's a good amount of time to play it. I don't even think they're necessarily that expensive. Like, the last few times I saw these, I think the Gen 1 games go for, I think, maybe around $20 or something. And that's not bad, you know? That's pretty good for the amount of stuff that you get. So they're really good, but I think I should also bring up some of the bad things, because as great as these are, and, like, I will totally admit, I am rather biased because I grew up with them, and I watched the show, and I was definitely a part of the big cultural movement that Pokemon was when it happened. I will have to say that there are problems with the game. Well, there's the glitches, like the missing no glitch, which is very nice to exploit, but it's kind of bad that it's in there. And there's stuff like the inconsistencies of, well, Bug is super effective against Poison, yet Poison is also super effective against Bug. Why would it be super effective against each other? Wouldn't one have the super effective and one be the not very effective? Doesn't make sense. Also moves like Fire Spin and Wrap and Bind. If your Pokemon is faster and they use this, they can just use it over and over and over and over. And they win, because they wear out the other Pokemon. And it's especially shitty when an enemy can do that. Because when computers use their Pokemon, see, your moves have a limited amount of uses, known as PP. And once you run out of those, you can no longer use that move. You're out of uses for it. Well, it gets replenished when certain items can replenish it, and when you go to a Pokemon Center, it's replenished. But aside from those things, you really can't do it. And computers do not have this this cap. There's nothing stopping computers from using a move an infinite amount of times. They will never run out of moves. I don't know why. It's just a thing they didn't program in, I guess. I don't know. And so that means, like, normally a move, there are a lot of moves that are, at least a few of them that are one-hit KOs. Okay, regardless. As long as they hit, they are a one-hit KO and your Pokemon's gone. And the thing is, all of these moves that have that will have 5 uses. That's all they have. And even using these enhancers that can increase the amount of moves it has, I think it caps off at 7 or 8 uses. And that's the most they could ever have. And the thing that's bullshit is that I've had an enemy use that move and kill all of my Pokemon. All 6 of my Pokemon. And it missed a few times because those things are very low on accuracy. It missed a few times, and it managed to kill every single one of my Pokemon with just that move. It's not really that fair. I think maybe that needs some rebalancing. You know, there are issues. Also, Psychic type is totally overpowered. They only have a weakness of Bug and Ghost. Now, Ghost has 2 moves in this game that do damage. One is Nightshade, which does damage based on what level you are. And then the other is Lick, which, it's that. It's not really strong, but it's the Ghost move. And the problem with this is that there are only 3 Ghost Pokemon in the entire game, and all of them have a secondary type of Poison, which Psychic is super effective against. And this also brings us to Bug. Well, Bug moves are super effective against Psychic Pokemon, but most of the Bug-type Pokemon in this game have a secondary type of Poison. So again, they're going to be destroyed by Psychic types. It's really unfair and unbalanced. The Psychic types really destroy things. It's not like there's no way around it. You can level up, you can get some nice tactics going, they can just be rather tough to challenge, but the thing is, they seem to be a little bit unbalanced and just overpowered. And I don't think that was necessarily intentional, or maybe it was, but it kind of sucked. Also, looking at other games that have come out since, you can kind of realize that, okay, they didn't flesh out the Pokemon enough. You know, there's a lot of things that could have been done with different dual types and, you know, more things with these types. Like, you know, most of the fire types in the game are just fire type. Most of the electric types in the game are just electric type. And things like that. And it's I don't know, it's like not even, as something I can't fault the game for, but I guess they maybe could have done more with it, and obviously they've done more with it since. So they've had it in mind. I don't know. There's nothing really too terribly wrong with it. It's just that it's not going to be the most consistent thing. And if you're playing Gen 1, I would say, like, this is probably not where you want to start, unless you grew up with it, in which case you probably already did. Gen 1 is kind of a horrible place to start in that it's inconsistent, it's kind of buggy and glitchy, and while I do like a lot of the things it does, and it's very simple, I think it's probably one of the most simple, probably the simplest one of all the games, which is definitely has going for it. Probably better off going with Gen 2 or 3 to start with, at least. Because they're more fixed, they're more balanced, they're more standardized, and they're also more fleshed out. While there's a lot of stuff to take in a lot of those, it's still, basically I'm going to say this, okay. When it boils down to it, what I'm saying is Pokémon Blue is, Pokémon Blue is just, it's good if you like simple RPGs, if you have a Game Boy, and you're more into retro games, you like the pixel graphics of it, the 8-bit style, and if you're not looking to get super into the entire series, this is a good place to jump in and jump out. You know, you can pick it up and play it. The games aren't too long. They aren't super short, but they aren't going to be too long. They're not too overcomplicated with all these different side things for you to do. Yes, they want you to catch all 150 Pokemon. You can't do that in one single game. You need to trade. You need the Game Link cable. That sucks. It's kind of exploiting you, but whatever. However you feel about that whole thing, you know. Pokemon Blue. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily the best of the three. It really comes down between, do you want red or blue, or do you want to have yellow? Red and blue are essentially the same with a few Pokemon exceptions in each one, so that you'd have to trade those. And, you know, I don't know, just which color do you like better? Because blue is mostly a blue palette throughout the entire game, and the red one uses a red palette throughout the entire game. So which colored cartridge and color on the screen do you want to be looking at for most of the time? I think that's how you'd want to decide that, or whichever mascot you think is the coolest. You see this is a little faded, it had this a while. Pokemon Yellow is a little closer on some of the events, and the art style is a little closer to the actual TV show, but I would say that overall, if you're going to get a Pokemon game, you're going to want to get red or blue in Gen 1, unless you really watch the show a lot. It's still not a lot different. It's a little easier, but it's there for if you're a big fan, or if you watch the show. That's what I'm going to say. So, that's all I had. So tell me, like, what is your favorite of the Gen 1 games? I think mine is still blue, because I like the color blue. I do kind of have a soft spot for yellow still, and I kind of want to get that back. I don't know what happened to my copy, but, you know, anyways, what's your favorite of the starters? You know, I think that's an interesting one to ask. And my favorite starter in Gen 1 was probably Squirtle. I think he's really cool, because Blastoise is awesome, and you get Surf and Strength. It's just really useful, and they're really strong moves. Also, what's your favorite Pokemon, Gen 1 Pokemon overall? And mine's probably still Golem. I had a Golem once, and it was trained to level 100. It was awesome. I loved it. Had a cool name. It was like Dogum with the XI on it. It was cool. And, I got Beedrill coming up on number 2 there pretty well, you know. I played through the game a few times with just Beedrill, and I like him. And I think I'll also ask this just for the sake of fun, because a lot of people like to say that Gen 1 Pokemon were cool and the other ones were stupid. What do you think is the stupidest Gen 1 Pokemon? Because, come on, every generation has stupid Pokemon in it. And for me, I think probably the stupidest Pokemon in Gen 1 has to be, and this is not talking intelligence, I just think it's stupid in design and everything, is Ditto. Ditto's the fucking stupidest because he's a fucking pink blob with his face is just two dots in a line on this weird pink blob. And fucking he knows one move, which is transform, which turns him into whatever Pokemon he's fighting. It's really stupid. If you're the same level, what's probably going to happen is that the other Pokemon's going to attack you first, have the advantage, and win. Okay? Dumb. I hate Ditto. I think he's fucking stupid. And I used to think he was cool, because I couldn't find him everywhere. And then I got one and tried to train it. And he's annoying and stupid. And fuck that Pokemon. Well, that's all I have. So if there's any other games you want me to review, leave it in the comments. Leave all those other things I said in the comments. We'll have fun here. We like to have fun and converse. And you guys aren't going to do it anyway, but that would be cool if you did. Also, I just want to end on the note that this is not where my Pokemon reviews end. Oh no. Because I have played more than just the first generation of Pokemon. How much more? Well, you'll have to find out. It was 3. I played 3 generations of Pokemon. You waited long enough.